Talking about Secret Worlds, can you just give us a very brief overview about what Secret World is and what we're seeing today?
Absolutely. So the Secret World is a massively multiplayer online game. So you play with thousands of other players, and you go on adventures and you explore a rich world. The major differentiator though is the fact that the Secret World takes place in our own real world, our own modern day real world. So you get to visit locations like New England, Egypt, Transylvania, London, Seoul. At one point you even go to hell. Though I'm not really sure if that's a real world location, but hey, we got it in there at least. It's that modern day setting, and the twist here is that everything is true. All the myths, all the legends and conspiracy theories, everything is true. So Stonehenge is a source of magic. Werewolves stalk the woods of Transylvania. All of this, the earth is hollow. In the Secret World, it's actually a travel hub. You travel through the earth. So yeah. No, and I also just want to say that also, I mean, the other thing, very, very important thing, is that there's no classes or levels. It's a completely free-form progression system.
Now, just to sort of touch upon, talking about there's no classes, but there are factions, 3 of which. What is it about these elusive organizations pulling the strings? Is that just an attractive prospect that just works across any medium?
I would say so, absolutely. I mean, it's something that people just love. I mean, it's everything from the Da Vinci Code to countless movies and books and everything. I mean, people love that sort of stuff, and I mean, it really feeds that whole conspiracy theme that we have in a game. All the conspiracies are true as well, and giving the players an opportunity to be a part of a secret organization like that, I mean, it's really exciting, and it also allows us to explain why the players are able to, observe all of these crazy things happening in our world. I mean, that they can actually see that, all the myths and legends are coming true, and that vampires are, a threat to the human race, for instance, because they have that knowledge through their secret society. So all of these 3 secret societies are hugely different. You have the Illuminati, the corporate manipulators, you have the Templars, which are, brutal and militaristic, and then you have the Dragons, which are, sort of more mysterious, believes in chaos theory, and, that, ripples can create tsunamis.
Well, a couple of questions spring off that. One, they're secret organizations, but if you're expecting the number of people that you usually get in MMOs turning up, it's going to be like the world is going to be a minority of the folk that actually don't know what's going on. It's not be a case of. But talking about the creature design, actually, you obviously enough mentioned vampires. You see the boogeyman in the presentation demo we've played. These are creatures that have being sourced in literature across the ages. How do you guys make your own unique spin on that?
No, that's a good question. Absolutely, yes, that's true. And I mean, to us, it's great being able to draw on all of those sources. All of those, comics, movies, old drawings, art, anything. To us, it's great. I mean, we're able to also take bits and pieces of that and combining it into our vision of it. A lot of the monsters that we do have in the game are more traditional in terms of how people think they will look. I mean, you have, for instance, Bigfoot, who looks sort of like Bigfoot. You would picture Bigfoot. You have werewolves, which sort of look like werewolves, from what you're used to. But then there's things that we have sort of completely turned around, like vampires. So our vampires are not necessarily. I mean, we might have some of those too, but I mean, a lot of the vampires that you will meet in the Secret World they're not wearing dark suits and are pale and have fangs and red eyes. And talk British. Some of the first vampires that you meet are actually dressed in heavy clothing, sort of like parkas and goggles and everything, and they're covering themselves up to avoid the light. And they have this straw, tucked into their mask, so they can sort of suck blood out. I mean, so we're sort of trying to give all of our monsters a twist.
And now that's an attractive proposition for people who've been brought up on these particular stories to come in and see your interpretation of it. Coming back to what you said previously about there's no classes as such. So how do you direct player progression in the game?
Well, so just to start with the basics. So basically, when you do missions, when you kill things, you gain ability points, and you can use these ability points to buy abilities. So in the Secret World, you can open what we call the ability wheel, and the ability wheel consists of over 500 different abilities. And you can pick and choose and mix and match from these and create your own unique build. You can only have 7 actives and 7 passive abilities, and the key here is really finding synergy between abilities that really work well together. For instance, you can go into the assault rifles, and you can find an ability that when you shoot someone, they're knocked over, knocked back. And then you can go into the hammer abilities, and you find an ability that does extra damage, like 200% damage to someone who's lying on the ground when you hit them with your hammer. And those are perfect synergies. So you're putting them together, and you're creating this, you're creating a really highly effective build. And that's some of the lure of the progression system in the Secret World, is that you're free to define your character in any way you want, and so it's almost like a meta game, trying to figure out what works well together. So when you're at that point, when you start digging into this and you're combining things, and you realize that you're this dancing machine of death, running around, it's a fantastic feeling, because it's almost like you've discovered a loophole. Even though you're within the rules of the game, it's like, oh my God, I've discovered this myself, and I'm just awesome at what I'm doing. So, but of course, key is that we want to allow players to play the game in any way they want to play. I mean, they can play a tank 1 minute, next minute they can be playing a healer type character.
I'm talking about shotguns and assault rifles that we've seen in the demo. Now, MMOs have went for the swords and sorcery type thing. They've more recently went for lightsabers and the Force. How do you apply modern day weaponry into an MMO setting?
Good question. Well, we do have a lot of modern day weaponry. I mean, we do have assault rifles, we have pistols, shotguns, that sort of stuff. But we also have, the more magical. We have elementalism magic, we have chaos magic, and blood magic. So I mean, a lot of it is stuff that you would find in our own real world. We also have equipment that are sort of almost science fiction-like, because they've been put together by these organizations that have access to top secret technology that you don't see on the market, for instance. But it is a mix between the realistic and the magical, and that's one of the things that really makes the Secret World interesting, is that yes, you're running through London, you're running through New York, but at the same time, half an hour later, you're in hell fighting a giant demon, made out of fire, and that's the lure with the Secret World. It has everything in a way.
And just wrapping up, when can players get their hands on with it?
The Secret World launches on June 19, but if you want to play a little bit earlier, you can pre-order the game, and you can actually start playing in the beta weekends. That starts on May 11th and runs from May 11th and up to launch on June 19.
Listen, thank you very much indeed for your time. Looking forward to playing it.